In this very moment, as you're listening to these words, something extraordinary is happening inside you. Part of you recognizes a truth you rarely admit out loud. Doorbell ringing. That text message asking if someone can drop by. Relative announcing a visit. Something tightens in your chest. It's not that you dislike people. It's not that you're antisocial. It's something much deeper. It's as if another person's presence in your space. Creates an invisible interference. A static that disrupts something sacred. Quietly cultivating. What if I told you that this reaction isn't a flaw? That in fact, it might be the clearest sign that something profound is happening in your consciousness. Eckhart Tolle spent decades studying this phenomenon, and what he discovered contradicts everything society teaches. About hospitality. About being a good person. About belonging. But before I reveal what Tolle discovered, I need you to understand a revelation that will completely change how you relate to your space. Your energy. And most importantly, the guilt you feel for needing to be alone. If you've ever felt drained after having visitors, even when they were people you love, you're not alone. If you've ever made up excuses to avoid gatherings at your place and then felt guilty about it, you're not alone. If you notice that your energy shifts dramatically the moment someone walks through your door and it leaves you confused about who you really are, you need to listen to this until the end. Researcher Dr. Elaine Aron, author of the book The Highly Sensitive Person, identified that between 15 and 20% of the world's population possesses a nervous system more responsive to the subtleties of the environment. That's approximately 1 billion. 400 million people. But here's the detail. That almost no one mentions. Dr. Aron discovered that these highly sensitive people talk about spirituality. As if it represents a central part of their identity, not as a hobby. Not as a fleeting essence. And Eckhart Tolle goes even deeper. He teaches that spiritual awakening. Isn't about becoming more sociable. More available. More accessible. It's about becoming more present, and true presence that has a cost. And nitrogen monoxide, one is told. But first, you need to understand the mechanism behind it. When you're alone, something extraordinary happens in your brain. A systematic review, published in November of 2020-4. By the scientific journal Biomedicines, analyzed the neurobiological changes induced by meditation and contemplative practices. The researchers discovered that these practices increase cortical thickness, reduce the reactivity of the amygdala, which is the center of fear and stress response, and improve brain connectivity. Translating into simple language, when you're in silence, in presence, your brain literally reconfigures itself. But here comes the part that changes everything. This reconfiguration is extremely fragile. Initial stages. Imagine you're building a delicate structure with crystals. Each moment of silence adds a crystal. Each insight adds each conscious breath strengthens the structure. And then someone enters your space, bringing worries about work, complaints about traffic, anxiety about the future. The vibration of these energies isn't compatible. With what you're building, not out of malice, but out of a difference in frequency. Toole explains this profoundly. He says that most people live identified with the thinking mind. They're constantly in the past or the future, rarely in the now. And when they enter your space, they bring this temporal cloud with them. Suddenly, you're no longer in the present. You're being pulled into their stories, into their problems, into their reality. And your nervous system feels it immediately. Remember Dr. Aron's research? Highly sensitive people. She discovered that these people often feel overwhelmed in social situations, even in casual or brief interaction. They feel sudden mood swings that don't seem like their own after being in crowded or emotionally intense environments, and they need significant time to rest after social interaction to process and recover. But hold on. This isn't about demonizing other people. This is about understanding a mechanism that operates below your conscious level. Tolle teaches that each person carries what he calls a pain body. It's the accumulation of all unprocessed emotional pain, unresolved traumas, of stored suffering, and this pain body is contagious, not in a physical way, but energetically. When someone with an active pain body enters your OWN, pain body can be activated in response, like two instruments. that vibrate at the same frequency. If one starts to sound, the other resonates. Now you understand why you feel so different after certain. And pay attention to this. Not all visits affect you in the same way. You probably noticed that certain people seem to suck your energy more than others. And that's not imagination, it's real perception of energetic dynamics. Tolle identifies specific patterns. People who live in a constant state of complaint. Activate your own pattern of negativity. People who need constant validation drain your energy because you unconsciously try to fill that void in them. People who live in perpetual drama pull you into emotional narratives that take you out of the present. And people who carry unprocessed anger can activate your own dormant anger. The issue isn't single quotes that these people are bad. The issue is that their pain body is seeking resonance. And if you're sensitive, you become a perfect mirror for that resonance. Not that you're weak, it's that you've become sensitive. And sensitivity isn't weakness, it's expanded consciousness. It's the ability to perceive what others don't. But here's the paradox that Tolle took years to articulate completely. That changes the whole perspective on this subject. The solitude you seek isn't escape, it's nurturing. Let me explain this. A way you'll never forget. The Cognitive Neuroscience Society, April of 2020 article about how attention directed inwards through contemplative practices works as a tool for mental health. Erica Nihas from Bowdoin College, one of the researchers, affirms that attentional training is a mechanism by which you can train your brain. It's not a metaphor it's neuroplasticity in action In moments of conscious solitude, you're not just doing nothing, you're actually engaged in the most important endeavor a human being can undertake. You're honing your ability to remain present. And each interruption of this practice carries a cost. It's not a neutral event. Think of it this way. If you were dedicated to mastering a complex musical instrument, you would require hours of focused practice. Each time someone disrupted your session, you'd have to start over, potentially further back than where your concentration was initially. Consider that the instrument you're learning to play is your own awareness. Music you're striving to create is pure presence. This is the real reason why spiritually awakened individuals need solitude. It's not misanthropy, it's practice. Deliberate practice. And here's something that might surprise you. The vast majority of ancient spiritual traditions understood this perfectly. Monks and monasteries had individual cells. Hermits sought out caves. Mystics across all traditions practiced silent retreats, not because they hated people, but because they understood that certain states of consciousness can only be cultivated in silence. Eckhart Tolle himself spent 2 years sitting on park benches after his awakening, with minimal social interaction, not because he had become antisocial, but because he was integrating such a profound transformation that external interference could shatter the process. And this reveals a crucial point that almost no one discusses. Spiritual awakening isn't a singular event, it's a process. And during this process, your nervous system is recalibrating, your brain structures are reorganizing, your relationship with reality is being transformed. Think of a butterfly inside its chrysalis. At that stage of transformation, external interference can be fatal to the process. Caterpillar literally dissolves before becoming a butterfly. If the chrysalis is opened, transformation is permanently interrupted. Your space of solitude is your chrysalis. Well-meaning visits from friends or family wanting to chat, vent, or simply spend time with you, are unknowingly poking at a chrysalis where a delicate transformation is underway. This doesn't mean you should isolate yourself forever. It means you must protect your process while it's in critical stages. And only you can truly know when you're in those stages. Here's the question you're likely asking yourself right now. What if I can't live like a hermit? What if I have a family, a job, responsibilities? What if modern life simply doesn't allow for the solitude you're describing? That's exactly the right question. And the answer will change how you relate to visits from now on. Tolle doesn't teach that you must isolate yourself completely. He teaches something far more nuanced and practical. He teaches that you can be with others and still maintain your presence. This requires a level of practice that most people haven't developed yet. Like the difference between a novice swimmer and an Olympic swimmer. Novice drowns in turbulent waters. The Olympic swimmer can maintain their technique even when the waves are ROUG. Similarly, A beginner spiritual practitioner easily loses their presence when other energies enter the field, but a more developed practitioner can maintain their awareness even in challenging environments. The problem is that most spiritually awakened people are somewhere between those two extremes, and our culture offers nitrogen monoxide support for this development. In fact, it actively works against it. Modern society values extroversion. It values constant availability. It values having a full house, a packed schedule, a phone that's always connected. And this creates immense pressure on people who are in the process of spiritual awakening. You feel wrong for needing silence. You feel antisocial for not wanting visitors. You feel guilty for wanting to be alone. And this guilt is perhaps the biggest obstacle to your development. And the irony is profound. The same people who judge you for needing solitude are often the ones who would benefit from it. The people who rush from meeting to meeting, from party to party, from interaction to interaction, are often running away from themselves. They use sociability as an anesthetic to avoid having to face the inner silence. And when they see you choosing this silence deliberately, it activates something in them, a discomfort, a sense that maybe they're avoiding something they should be facing. And it's from this discomfort that the judgment comes. It's not about you. It's about what your choice reflects back to them, because guilt is one of the ego's favorite tools. Tolle teaches that the ego needs constant external validation. It feeds on approval, on belonging, on being seen, And when you start to prefer solitude, the ego panics. It interprets this as a threat to your social survival, and then it produces guilt, a lot of guilt. Guilt for not being hospitable, guilt for not being available. Guilt for not being like others. But here's the truth that sets you free. Conscious solitude is not selfishness. It's self-care at its deepest level. It's recognizing that you can't give what you don't have, and that in order to have presence to offer to others, you first need to cultivate it within yourself. Returning to what I mentioned at the beginning about the cost of presence that no one told you about, now you understand the cost is precisely this. It's having to protect something that most people don't even know exists, having to explain needs that sound strange to those who have never experienced true presence, having to navigate between the internal call to silence and the external expectations of sociability. And this is a path that you need to learn to walk with wisdom. So how do you do this in practice? How do you honor your need for solitude without isolating yourself completely? How do you receive visits without losing your presence? How do you set boundaries without creating conflicts? First, it's essential that you understand the difference between isolation and intentional solitude. Isolation comes from fear. It's hiding from the world because you can't handle it. It's avoiding people out of anxiety, out of unhealed wounds, out of an inability to connect. Intentional solitude comes from awareness. It's deliberately choosing moments of silence to cultivate presence. It's protecting your space not out of fear of others, but out of love for what you are developing. The difference lies in the internal motivation, and only you can know which is operating within you. If you're avoiding visits because you're afraid of judgment, that's isolation. If you're avoiding visits because you need time for spiritual practice, that's intentional solitude. The former needs to be worked on, the latter needs to be honored. Secondly, learn to communicate your needs without justifying. Eckhart Tolle teaches that one of the clearest ways to identify ego-based action versus presence-based action is the amount of explanation you feel the need to give. When you're acting from presence, you don't need to justify yourself at length. Simply communicate and maintain your center. Not available that day works. I need some time to myself works. My place isn't a good environment for gatherings right now works. You don't need to explain that you're on a spiritual awakening journey, that your nervous system is sensitive, that you need to cultivate presence. That just invites more questioning, more resistance, more need for justification, thirdly, create structures that protect your practice without creating rigidity. Some people who are awakening make the mistake of creating absolute rules. I'm never receiving visitors again. I'm never going to social gatherings again. I'm never exposing myself to other energies again. That's not wisdom, that's fear, disguised as spirituality, The wiser approach is to create flexible structures. Maybe you designate certain times of the day as sacred for your practice. Maybe you limit visits to certain days of the week. Maybe you establish that after a certain hour, your home becomes your sanctuary. These structures create containers that protect your practice, without creating walls that isolate you from life. Fourthly, develop your ability to maintain presence, even in the company of others. That's the ultimate goal. Not to live in permanent isolation, but to develop a presence so stable that it isn't disturbed by external energies. This is what Tolle demonstrates in his talks. He stands before thousands of people, but his presence doesn't waver. Not because he's special, but because he's practiced for decades. You can do this too. But it requires deliberate practice, and that practice starts in solitude. Let me tell you something that few spiritual teachers admit openly. Even the most advanced need solitude. Even Tolle needs time alone. Even masters of ancient traditions who have spent decades in practice need moments of retreat. Not because they haven't arrived yet, but because solitude isn't a stage to be surpassed. It's a permanent nutrient for awakened consciousness. Just as your body will always need water and nourishment, no matter how healthy you become, your consciousness will always need silence and solitude, no matter how awake you get. It's not a flaw to be corrected. It's a need to be honored. And now, we arrive at the central point of all of this. You've received something valuable in these minutes. You've received validation for an experience that has probably never been validated before. You've received knowledge about neurological and energetic mechanisms that operate within you. You've received permission to honor your need for solitude. Without guilt. This isn't common information. It's information that can transform your relationship with your space. With your energy. With your life. But this kind of knowledge is rarely shared, because it goes against what society teaches. Most channels don't talk about this. Because it's easier to say what people want to hear. It's easier to teach techniques to be more social. More available. More connected. When you click the super thanks button, you're saying that this kind of truth matters. Supporting a space where genuine knowledge about spiritual awakening can be shared without filters. It's not payment, it's positoning. It's you saying you've chosen the path of consciousness over the path of convenience. And now, the final transformation. The practical step you can apply immediately. Starting today, you're going to create what I call an energetic cleansing ritual for when you receive visitors. This will allow you to welcome people into your home without losing your presence. Recover your state quickly after they leave. First, before the visit arrives. Dedicate 5 minutes in silence. Sit comfortably. Close your eyes. And set the intention to maintain your presence, regardless of what happens during the encounter. Visualize a light that emanates from the center of your chest and envelops your entire body. This light isn't a barrier against others. Anchor for yourself. Constant reminder of who you are beyond social interactions. Second, during the visit, practice what Tolle calls divided attention. Part of your attention is on the conversation, on the interaction, on what's happening externally. But another part remains anchored in your body. Feel your feet on the ground. Feel your breath. Feel the life pulsating in your hands. This creates an anchor that prevents you from being completely absorbed by the other person's energy. Third, the moment the visit is over, don't immediately jump into the next activity. Dedicate at least 10 minutes to what I call an energetic reset. Open the windows if possible. Light a candle or incense if that resonates with you. But mainly, sit in silence and observe. Observe what thoughts arose during the visit that are not. Observe what emotions were activated that don't belong to you. Observe where in your body you feel tension or contraction. Don't try to change anything. Just observe. Conscious observation alone already dissolves much of what was absorbed. Fourth, in the coming days, pay attention to the signs that you've completely processed the energy of the visit. These signs include restful sleep the following night, ability to isolate return to presence during your practice, absence of repetitive thoughts about the interaction, feeling that your space is yours again. If these signs don't appear in 2 or 3 days, that indicates that the visit was particularly challenging for you, not because something is wrong with you, but because maybe you need more solitude than you're allowing yourself. And here's the final indicator that you're progressing in this practice. You'll know you're advancing when you realize you can without losing your presence. When you notice that your recovery time after visits is decreasing, when you feel that your center remains stable, even in challenging conversations. This doesn't happen overnight. But it does happen. And every small progress is cause for celebration. And here's something that will encourage you. As your practice deepens, you'll discover that you can be with certain people and actually strengthen your presence. Lose it. This often happens when you encounter others who are also on the path. When 2 or more awakened individuals meet in conscious presence, amplification occurs. It's like 2 instruments playing in harmony. The sound becomes richer, not poorer. Eckhart Tolle speaks about this. He says that when two or more people are present together, they don't diminish each other's presence, ... They amplify it. That's why meditation circles, ... Silent retreats, spiritual sanghas can be so powerful, ... Not solitude itself that you seek, it's protection from unconsciousness, ... And when you're with others equally conscious, there's no need for protection. Solitude is not your enemy. It's your most faithful ally on the path to awakening. And when you learn to honor it without guilt, something extraordinary happens. You discover that you can be present with others in a way that was previously impossible, because you're no longer trying to extract presence from them, ... You're offering the presence that you have cultivated. And that's the difference between a relationship based on need and a relationship based on consciousness. Now, I want to hear from you, and I want you to be completely honest. A controversial question for the comments: is the need for solitude a sign of awakening, or simply social avoidance disguised as spirituality? 99% of people can't distinguish between the two. Can you? Comment presence if you genuinely feel that your need for solitude comes from a conscious. Comment doubt if you're still not sure and want to explore more. I'll be responding to all comments within the first 2 hours.